Having heard, D, having heard that the Christ would come from the line of Judah, he made several attacks on David's line. So, as the line is getting thinner and thinner, it becomes more specific as to through whom the Christ is going to be born. It becomes easier, so to speak, for Satan to attack that line. At first, it was just broad. It was Cain and Abel, and there's just all humanity. How about we attack all humanity? Then you find out, okay, it's through Abraham that the Jews are going to be reproduced. Okay, attack Abraham's line. And then you get more specific. Then you hear about Judah. Okay, you attack Judah's line. Then you hear about a descendant of Judah, David, King David. All right, attack King David's line. And then you attack his descendants. And the reason why David's descendants were always under attack. Okay. Having heard that Christ would come from the line of Judah, he made several attacks on David's line. King David was a descendant of Judah. Remember, Judah is the ruling tribe of Israel. Levi is the priestly line of Israel. And Manasseh and Ephraim are the double portion line. So E, in his continual attack on David's line, he accomplished to kill all his line except once. There was a time where just one descendant of David, one king, was left over, is Joash. Now this is specific, and we would have to go over certain verses. So it got to the point when there was only one person from the royal family, Joash. There was also another time King Hezekiah. He had no sons when he was attacked by the king of Assyria, but God preserved Hezekiah, the only one left in the line of Christ. Furthermore, when they were in Persia, there was now another attempted genocide of one of the ruling men of the king of Persia. His name was Haman, and he made a plot to attack the Jews when they were in exile under the Persians. Of course, this was a failure as well. The Jews accomplished to go back to their land. And then so finally when the Virgin Mary, she was pregnant. Virgin Mary being a descendant of David through Nathan. Joseph was also a descendant of David through Solomon, through Canaan. There was an attack on the pregnant Virgin Mary with Joseph's dilemma about leaving her. So that would have been disastrous, not having the protection of her husband. Just being pregnant with disillusion, what do I do? This and that, attacks of people, especially in a time when society shunned the fact that you had pregnant out of wedlock. You had a child out of wedlock. And so that would have been disastrous. So Joseph, he was thinking about leaving her. He was a man of honor, and he said, I'll leave her in silence. But in Matthew chapter 1, verse 18 to 20, the angel appeared to him and told him that child was a product of who? The Holy Spirit. The omnipotence of God, the Holy Spirit providing a clean sperm for her, clean ovum, so as to produce a child without the sin nature, which is Christ. Point 14. Having failed to prevent the incarnation of Christ, Satan and his demons continuously attacked the humanity of Christ. So they failed in preventing the incarnation of Christ. Christ was born, and so what is the next tactic here? Well, attack the humanity of Christ. He was consistently under attack by the demons. So, point A, the command of King Herod the Great, he said, kill all the children 2 years and younger. He was extremely paranoid about his line. He wanted to keep his seat of power for his children, and he knew that there was a Messiah, a king, and he, being a political ruler, thought that Messiah was always going to be a threat against his rule, so he said, kill him. Kind of like whenever there was a royal family and a king felt threatened, he would kill all the other people who had royalty, who had a right to access to the throne. So King Herod the Great, in Matthew chapter 2, verse 13 to 18, killed all the children 2 years and younger of Bethlehem and around that area as well. Being, as he grew up, his humanity was tempted in every way. Hebrews chapter 4, verse 15. You complain about your temptations. Oh, you should have seen what Christ was tempted with. And this tells us something about the nature of temptation. He had no sin nature. He struggled with no sin at all. But temptation is what it says. Tempted. He felt like sinning. And this reveals to us the nature of temptation. Many times it is like an imputation. You feel it like it's yours, even though it's not yours. Of course, you're going to experience this once you're in super grace, when you finally have gotten over all your sin nature tendencies that you struggled with before. And then all of a sudden they start coming back. You're like, what happened? What's going on? I don't struggle with this anymore. But you are being tempted. That's the nature of temptation. Okay, so his humanity was tempted in every way. He did not sin, though, however. See the special temptation of Christ, a temptation that you nor I will ever go through, because he is deity. His temptation had to do with recurring to his deity instead of using only his humanity. This temptation was executed by Satan himself under the status of extreme starvation, 40 days and 40 nights. So Satan was already unsure about himself. He knew that he was not going to be able to make Christ sin. So what? So the advantage was given to him. All right, get him under extreme starvation, said God to Satan. And he said, all right, I'll take it. And so you try to appeal to his hunger reflexes, those hunger reflexes that we cannot resist. Christ had so much doctrine and empowered by the Holy Spirit that he did not sin. Matthew chapter 4, verses 1 to 11. Obviously, temptation continued thereafter, but fast forward to the cross or nearby. D. Satan himself influenced Judas Iscariot. Luke 22, verse 3. John chapter 13, verse 27. Judas Iscariot was demon influenced or Satan influenced directly. Satan himself made sure to control Judas at that moment. And you bet that at that time when the cross was about to occur, demons were working overtime, indwelling this person, influence this person to get the right people in the right place at the right time. The right king, this ruler, this person of authority in the right place at the right time to do and say the correct things so as to prevent Christ from being victorious on the cross. But Satan himself, he was the one that saw fit to influence Judas Iscariot. Another principle, just remember that even though all the demons are going against you and everyone's working overtime, God is still in control. They do not prevent Christ from dying on the right day, the correct day. Subpoint E. During Christ's 7 trials, Satan and the demons gave impulses of hatred to those who were striking Christ. These people were already hateful, but again, the nature of temptation is that the demons can add more to your already existing hatred, can add more to your already existing jealousy or already existing bitterness or whatever mental attitude. So they gave those additional impulses so as to hit him with hatred, so as to kill him. His face was beaten into a mush. He was unrecognizable. Something was shocking. And the purpose of this was perhaps to kill him before arriving at the cross. But Christ's body had no sin nature. Part of the reason why our bodies are weak is because of the existence in nature. Christ had no sin nature. He was extremely strong. So, if Satan if he did not accomplish killing Christ before the cross, at least to leave him so physically abused that it would make him nearly impossible to think on the cross. Sometimes when you're in pain, it's difficult to think. Just imagine having to speak in front of people, and You have a pain here, a pain there, a pain over here. You have a pulsing headache on your temporal lobe. You have that dislocated disc on your back, also hurting at that moment. How about add a little bit of stomach pain at that moment? How about add to it your days of menstruation? How about add a little you will feel like using the restroom and releasing, etc. Once you have more and more and more pain, it becomes more difficult to think. This is what Satan was trying to do for Christ. Of course, he failed. Point 15. Having failed to prevent Christ from winning the strategic victory and thus defeating Satan, the church-age believer has now become the object of Satan's attack. So, Christ won the strategic victory. Satan's back is broken. He cannot win, but he can still get something his way. And one way to do this is by preventing Christians in the church age from advancing all the way to super grace. So, who is there to attack now? You and I. You are now an image of Christ because he has made you the new spiritual species, having the same spiritual life as Christ. Whether you use it or not, it's available. And so he attacks us. The reason why no Christian is advancing in the spiritual life, the reason why I've had to come to YouTube and put my lessons here to see whoever gets it. Because all those churches that were gathered there 5 days ago on Sunday, all here in California, and all over there in Texas, and in Florida, New York, none of them want doctrine. No one wants doctrine right now. 99 point something percent of all Christians are not advancing in the spiritual life. Everyone's distracted by morality. Everyone's distracted by politics, crusaderism. Everyone's distracted by sin. Whatever it is, that's a distraction. Yeah, I feel like you're becoming distracted right now. Think about things instead of giving this Bible class. That's how much temptation there is. Subpoint A. The church age is the intensified stage of the angelic conflict. So Satan has his back broken out, and therefore the attack has increased. I'm not talking about intensified stage in terms of violence, even though there is a lot of violence and there's a lot of criminality. The tribulation is going to be that stage of intense criminality, intense violence. I'm talking about intensified stage in terms of the demons working overtime, using all the power that they have to distract the church age believer. So point B, God has given the ordinary believer more things than any other dispensation. So just as there is an intensified stage of the church age, you have been given more things at salvation, more power in phase 2 to be able to counter these things. So point C, Satan and the demon boys attempt to prevent any believer from executing the spiritual life of Christ here on earth. So just going back to the 490 years, remember that the only way that the believer buys time is by advancing in the spiritual life all the way to maturity. And every time that a believer arrives at maturity, which takes a while, that believer, or God grants, an additional 490 years for the perpetuation of the world. If there's no one who matures, no one buying those 490 years, then the world stops. You who's advancing in the spiritual life, the world's existence depends on you. And why does Satan want the world to stop? Why does he want the rapture to occur? Sorry, I said world stop. The rapture to occur before time. Because if the rapture occurs before time or after the time assigned that God knows, only God knows, then God fails to fulfill certain promises. And that gives Satan the advantage. I know that part's technical.